Check out some exclusive music from Johnsonian Theory.
We live in a nation of free enterprise, but this free market needs a re-energize. We live, breathe, and die for this economic system, even if it leads to pandemic annihilationism. Making money is great, but it needs to be made in truth. You would sell your brother out for a payment on your coupe. DeVille, the truth is real, and it hurts, cause it bites when you're not walking in it. If you're not, then you will come face to face with it once it hits home. Market driven, but what will you drive once your whip is gone? Corporate execs hear this, turn to a different song, but they need to realize I'm not here to pick a wrong. I'm just here to expose truth to the masses. Why can't we share the wealth so we all live lavish? I'm not an economist and I'm not a historian, just a graduate from the Northeast Consortium with the credentials from the middle states of America. And now I'm on a mission to teach unreached areas before Karl Marx wrote Dark Capital. African slaves were wiping the sweat from their brow, building up this great nation which is now deep in debt because of market failures and corporate incest. I don't know how, but maybe we can change the system. Possibly the solution could be socialism.
Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom.
People in every part of the globe are perishing because their judgment is low. From children to teens to elderly folks, this epidemic is incredibly bold. Wisdom is needed to see through the fog. Without it, we'll stumble and cease to the law. You're jumping without something to break and fall if you choose to ignore wisdom's beckoning call. The only people who will lose the war are those who don't know who they're fighting for. You are the only one who can decide your fate. Don't waste your life when you can live inside of grace. If we turn to God and behold His shining face, we will gain traction to run in this human race.
Hey, what's going on? JC Johnson here for The Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about the wisdom of capitalism.
Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom.
All right, what's going on? JC Johnson here for The Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And on today's episode, we're going to be discussing the wisdom of capitalism. All right, so that was a brief clip, just a intro for this particular show. It's called Capitalism from Johnsonian Theory, and I think it kind of explains a little bit about what we're going to get into. It talks about how capitalism, even though people may have good intentions for why they would want to be a part of a capitalistic system, basically is saying that there are some problems, and we're going to take a look at that. We're going to look at what are some of the problems with the system, but we're also going to look at what some of the good things about it are and how we can benefit, and maybe how we can have a little bit more of a balance. So that's what we're talking about on today's show, capitalism. And if you're new to the show, this is For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And what this show is, it's a show about philosophy. And the show title comes from a breakdown of the word philosophy, because if you look at it, the Greek words that make up the word philosophy are philo, which means love, philo, and sophos, or Sophia, depending on what language you're looking at, and that means wisdom. So when you put the two together, philo, love, and sophos, wisdom, that's where you get philosophy or philosophia, and that means literally love of wisdom. And wisdom is the ability to be able to discern in several different aspects of life. It's the ability to have good sense or good judgment. And right now we're in the series where each of our show titles end with the same suffix. They end with the suffix ism, ISI or ISM. And in the first season of the show, all of the episodes ended with a different suffix, right? So if you if you go back and you listen to the first episodes, they all ended with the same 3 letters. Instead of ISM, it was ITY. So we had episodes about eternity, prosperity, paternity, right? Integrity, all different types of ITY words. And so we're just switching it up. Pretty much every 50 episodes, we're going to switch it up. This right here would bring us into the 66th episode of the show. So glad about that. We've progressed a lot since last year when the show started, and it's going to continue to get better and better, especially with your input. So if you have any suggestions or any particular show topics, anything that you want to go over specifically, definitely hit me up on either Instagram or Twitter. The handle is at One Plan Media, and that's one spelled out ONE Plan Media. And we can talk about whatever the topic is for the week, or you can just say hi. So hit me up Instagram or Twitter at One Plan Media. And in your response, just use the hashtag For the Love of Wisdom, just so that I know what you're referring to. So today we're discussing capitalism. Capitalism is something that can be somewhat controversial depending on what camp you're coming from, what your school of thought is, right? Because people have differences of opinion on what this really should be. So I want to make sure that we have a proper understanding of that and that we're all on the same page. So we're going to go over capitalism, the definition of it, just looking at what it is, what it isn't, and also what we can get out of this. Because on this show, everything that we talk about has some value. And I think that we can get a lot of value out of capitalism if it's used correctly. So that's what we're going to look at. And, on the next show, we're actually going to contrast capitalism with socialism. And we're going to look at the two and see if one is better than the other, or even if the two can coexist. So just looking at the Britannica, capitalism, also called free market economy or free enterprise economy, is an economic system, and it's dominant in the Western world. And you know that here in the United States, we are in the Western part of the world, right? And so capitalism is something that's very popular in the West since the breakup of feudalism. And that's a whole different kind of economic system in which most of the means of production were privately owned, and production is guided and income distributed largely through the operation of markets. So that's what capitalism is all about. Capitalism is putting emphasis on individuals being able to make as much money as possible to be able to compete with other people. Whereas other systems, such as socialism, are different. And we're going to look at a breakdown of the differences between all of them as we go on further into this. One thing that the Britannica also says is that although the continuous development of capitalism as a system dates only from the 16th century, antecedents of capitalist institutions existed in the ancient world, and flourishing pockets of capitalism were present during the later European Middle Ages. So capitalism is nothing new. It's not something that just started, 50 years ago or even 100 years ago. It's been around for a long time. However, as the world has expanded, as we've become less of an agricultural society, and even going beyond the Industrial Revolution and all of that, bringing us to where we are today, times have changed. Ways to make money has changed. I mean, the internet has caused exponential growth in every single kind of field you can think of, right? It has totally transformed the way people can make money now, because there were times where you couldn't just start a business that could blow up overnight. We live in a society now, though, where with the advent of the internet, with utilizing it properly, you can definitely create a pretty big buzz for your business in ways that were never imagined possible before. So laws were written in such a way in times past to deal with what the times were. But the times have changed, and that's what's made things so different now. And it's the reason why at one point in history, people used to say capitalism is the best thing that could ever happen to this nation. But then later on, as we've seen with the Great Depression and even the recession back in 2007, 2008, people began to question, is capitalism really the way? So during the Great Depression, which was in the 1930s, there was a policy that started, and it was called laissez-faire, right? And basically what that is non-interference by the state in economic matters. So what that is that basically there is less control by the government when it comes to regulating what people can and can't do in business, or how much money a person can make, or even the means in which a person can make it. So with this laissez-faire policy, it brought to an end in most countries, and for a time cast doubt on the capitalist system as a whole. And so people began to say, is this really working? Is this really the way that it's supposed to be? But anyway, more on that when we come back. We're going to continue this topic. You are listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And I'm your host, JC Johnson. We'll be right back with North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you.
I don't know how, but maybe we can change the system. Possibly the solution could be socialism.
All right, what's going on? JC Johnson here. For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And we're back on today's show. We're talking about the wisdom of capitalism. So if you heard that clip right before we came back, it was talking about capitalism, the whole capitalistic system. That right there was from Johnsonian Theory. You should be able to hear that online in the coming days. But before the break, we went over what capitalism is about and the reason why so many people have a problem with it. We looked at some of the, opposing views, or at least we're going to get more into that during this part right here. But just to recap, if you're just joining in, pretty much capitalism is another way of saying a free market economy or a free enterprise economy. And it's something that's dominant in the western part of the world. So us here in the United States, we're in the West, versus in India, China, the Middle East, that's more so the eastern part of the world. And in the eastern part of the world, things are much different than in the western part of the world, right? We have a lot of differences, some similarities, but it's definitely a different way of life and a different school of thought. But even in eastern parts of the world, some of them are beginning to embrace some of the same customs in the West, and vice versa. There's people who are, ascribing to Eastern philosophies and stuff like that, even here in the United States. But for the most part, though, there are some major differences between the two. And I want to take a look at an article that is called Capitalism, Its Characteristics with Pros and Cons. And this one is pretty good. It's from thebalance.com. You can go there if you want to check out the full article. But I thought that they had a pretty good way of breaking down some of the differences here when it comes to capitalism and just some different things to look out for. And one thing that they said to start it off, they said that capitalistic ownership means two things. First, the owners control the factors of production. Second, they derive their income from their ownership. Okay, so those are two important things to remember. Owners control the factors of production, and they derive their income from their ownership. So capitalism is different from socialism, and we're going to get into that a little bit later as to why that is. But according to this article, capitalism requires a free market economy to succeed. So without that, it's not even possible to have a capitalistic society. And what happens with capitalism is it distributes goods and services according to the laws of supply and demand. So if you remember from school, just talking about supply and demand, the rules as it relates to that, the whole thing with supply and demand is this. As long as, let's say you have a company and they're selling goods and services for $100 a piece, right? Whatever it is. Let's just say it's a drone, right? So this company is selling a drone for $100 and people are purchasing it for $100. The government didn't have to say you can only charge $100 or you have to, it's up to that manufacturer, right? But here's the thing. In a free market economy, when you have healthy competition and sometimes unhealthy competition, you have people who say, all right, this person is selling this product for $100, but in order to compete, I'm gonna sell something similar. I can't copy their product, especially if they have it trademarked, but I can still sell something similar. Maybe I'll add one extra feature or something like that just to make it stand out. Or maybe I'll include all the same features. But instead of charging $100, maybe I'll charge $93. And that way, I'll be able to compete with this other company who's selling it for $100, because once people find out I'm selling it for $7 cheaper, they're going to want to buy from me instead. Supply and demand. And as time goes on, the more that's being demanded, right? So the more customers begin to buy these certain products, the more that is being demanded, the more has to be supplied. And so according to this article here in thebalance.com, it says that the law of demand says that when demand increases for a particular product, price rises. So when competitors realize they can make a higher profit, they increase production. And with most things, if you buy more, you usually get some sort of discount. There's a value, like, even when it comes to food, or like fast food specifically, it seems like the more you get, the better deal you get. So, for example, if you get a meal, and let's say your choices are small, medium, and large, maybe the thing is, a small is going to cost $7, but if you get a medium, it's only 49 cents more, or if you get a large, it's 99 cents more, right? So people are thinking, I get way more food for only $1 more. I'll probably just go ahead and get the more food. Or in some cases, when it comes to manufacturing products, like for example, a book, when a book is manufactured, if a book publisher only gets one book manufactured, the price is going to be a lot higher. Let's just say they're spending $4 on the price of that book, versus if they buy 1,000 books, instead of each book costing $4, if they buy 1,000 books, maybe each book will only cost $2.37. So you see, in a lot of cases, the more that is produced, and the more that is being bought, the cheaper things can get. And so this is what happens within capitalism. So competitors, they begin producing at higher and higher rates, and the greater supply reduces prices to a level where only the best competitors remain, because everyone is going to be competing about, okay, how can we make the same thing for less? All right, this person made it for $100. I'm going to now offer it for $93. Somebody says, well, I can do the same thing and still make the same profit if I offer it for $87. And then there's this battle of who's going to be able to offer it for the best price possible and still make a profit. And those who can't keep up, those who can't compete, they end up going out of business. I was just at Kmart earlier today, getting some things for my household, and I realized that they were going out of business. And at first I wasn't sure if it was just that particular store or if it was all Kmart's, and the cashier let me know that it's all Kmart's. They're all going out of business. And if you think about it, when a store goes out of business, it's usually not, because, they're just getting tired of the business and they want to retire. In most cases, when a huge company like that goes out of business, it's because they're not able to compete. That means that places like Walmart and Target are dominating and they're not able to compete. And if you think about it, Walmart and Target have a much, bigger selection, and it seems they have, just way more connections than some place like Kmart. 20 years ago, Kmart was a perfect place to go. Kmart's a step above Big Lots, I would say. Yet Kmart is going out of business, and for whatever reason, they weren't able to compete. And that's something that happens within capitalism. And for that reason, some people get scared and they say, wow, I don't know if I even want to be a part of something like this. But that's just the reality of the world that we live in. If you can't compete, you'll get swept up by the competition. But more on that after this. You are listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. And I'm JC Johnson for the love of wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets.
Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom. 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 Wisdom.